Podouken!
All right, so it's time for some listener questions. It's been a couple of months since we've done these, so I had to dust off the old Discord channel and go back through and be like, did we cover this? Did we not cover this? And ultimately, I just gave up and asked people to renominate some of the questions.
That's the way to do it, because basically, as soon as a question comes, I forget that I was asked it. I don't remember. Yeah.
And we do get a lot of similar questions, so it's kind of hard.
Yeah.
Like, did we take that one and kind of rephrase it slightly and answer it already or not? But
yeah,
I got 2 guaranteed new questions for you.
Okay.
This is from Daddy Mulk. And the first question is, which games do you recall drawing the biggest crowds when you were growing up? Scenes that you witnessed personally, not sales figures.
I think I've said this before, but whenever I think about that, it's always Mortal Kombat 2. Because it was the game that it was the first time I saw 2 machines in the same arcade, and there was a crowd of people. Yeah. And every time people would do fatalities, there was cheers.
Yeah.
It's without a doubt it is Mortal Kombat 2 for me.
MK for sure. I want to say, even with Ultimate, with 3, I remember, it could have been 2. That's my memory's fuzzy, but I remember seeing it in other places too, and there would always be a crowd around it.
Yeah.
I think there was an arcade in the where the Chuck E. Cheese is, but there was a separate arcade in that plaza. And I distinctly remember just crowds of people around it. And I think at the time it was Ultimate.
The only other game I remember people crowding around when it first came out was NFL Blitz. And I think the original, not Gold or whatever. That's the only 2 games that I remember being in an arcade with having to wait.
Yeah. I could see that with Blitz. I think a lot of that too was, because just having a 4-player game, you would have.
Then it was just so over the top. It's the most ridiculous thing ever. Yeah.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat 2, distinct memories of people playing it, watching people playing it, people over their shoulder watching you when you're playing
the notebook. People had notebooks there. That's real.
Or the wallet note, right? Take out, it's almost my turn. I'm going to go ahead and unfold my wallet note that I got from GamePro.
Crowd around, cover the joystick so you couldn't see the inputs and stuff.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but people really wanted to see all those new
it was amazing.
Fatalities and what anything hidden was in there, even more so than the first one.
Yeah.
The only other one I'd say, and this is probably just because it was at the front of the arcade, but X-Men 6-player.
Yeah, I could see that.
Now I keep coming back to that, but I mean, have you ever experienced playing with 5 strangers?
No.
On an X-Men 6-player game? It's fantastic.
Okay.
So that was always one where, and again, that in my arcade, at least until when you walked in, that was the thing right there in the front center. But yeah, other than that, I'd definitely say Mortal Kombat 2. That was always something that, especially when it came out, people figuring it out, all these different rumors about characters that were in it, that weren't in it. Does this actually exist? Does that not exist? Yeah. And then on top of that, all the different, friendships, animalities. I mean, there was so much to scratch the surface on.
Oh, yeah.
And every time you went in, you would see something new just about. Mm-hmm. So... yeah, that's probably, I think that's all of our answers, but that's probably the...
Yeah, that's the first thing that jumps out, because I just distinctly remember a bunch of people around 2 cabinets.
Yeah, and I feel like I remember going...
I think Tekken may have had a little bit of a crowd too, the first Tekken in our arcade.
Oh, that does remind me of one other unconventional, but at Universal Studios in the arcade, they had a virtual reality Virtua Fighter.
Oh, wow.
It might have been Virtua Fighter 1 or 2. I can't remember which one, but you would actually get up on a area and it would scan your movements and you would be doing the movements, and on the screen the character would do the screen
That's
too.
like the Enforcer on the Sega Genesis.
It was exhausting. But it was a lot of fun, and I can't remember I don't think it was Islands of Adventure yet. It might have been Universal, maybe. I can't remember when Islands of Adventure got created, but it was definitely in the arcade there at Universal, and you could play for $1.50.
Whoa.
It was something insane.
Spicy.
But I remember playing it a couple of times, and it wasn't great. It wasn't extremely responsive as you would expect to be for that era of technology.
Right.
But it did a good enough job because, for Virtua Fighter, you're crouching, you're punching, you can do lower stuff, you can do higher stuff.
Did you have to accurately jump backwards? Like,
yeah, you floated in air. it was really weird. Yeah, but I can't remember how you did jumping. I think if you just kind of leapt, it did it, but it was whatever direction you were doing. Again, it didn't work great.
Sure.
But it was enough to at least make you feel like you were actually doing it. And I remember being part of the crowd watching other people do that as well. So that was probably it. No wizard moments. No one watching people play Super Mario 3 or anything. But
Gotcha.
Those are the ones that stand out for me.
Yeah.
Mulk has another question, and that is, what's an arcade game you discovered for the first time through MAME and really enjoyed? I think we just talked about it.
I was going to say this would be one that I did.
Well, no,
sure.
I didn't discover that through MAME. I got that from you and your bootleg.
That's true.
I'm an
influencer.
I would probably say JJ Squawkers.
JJ Squawkers was one, yeah.
JJ Squawkers for sure. It's like a weird Cuphead-esque platformer adventure beat 'em up game with weird.
All those things.
Yeah, it's a very weird game, but it's actually it's a very expensive game, much like Ninja Baseball Bat. Man is. But yeah, it's really interesting. I'm trying to think. MAME.
There was a lot of those games. I mean, I was big in the emulation, so I remember I was the one that people would come to in high school or whatever and be like, "Oh, how do you get Nintendo games on the computer?" And
you're like, "Hold on one second, I've got a
computer lab
3.5-inch floppy in my backpack.
That's basically
don't tell me
it.
where you got this from." And it's just really like an American online scratched out with like whatever your bootleg name is on it.
So for me, it was a ton of games because it was like definitely all the Japanese games, Pretty Solar Sailor Moon, those things that we didn't necessarily get or were really short runs here. Even a lot of the more, I'd say, popular games, but that were more obscure on the consoles, like CPS games and CPS2 games that weren't the big Street Fighters that you would see everywhere. Those, my first exposure for sure would have been through MAME, and just going through those games and playing them. I remember like loving it, Willow and some of those kind of platformer games and playing through those through MAME, and I'm sure I never saw that in the arcades.
Yeah, I have a bunch that I had at one point, and I've been lucky enough to get most of them on like real hardware. So I mean, like Gaiapolis was one of those. A lot of the Konami beat 'em ups before I was able to get those. I'd say the one that I still play often and discovered on MAME back in the day that I don't have a board of is Battleantis. Mm-hmm. So it's a pretty simple game, but it's basically Space Invaders, where you're raiding a castle. You got archers and everything else instead of like the actual invaders. But that's one I've always enjoyed. I don't know when. I know it was very early on that I seized on it and started playing it more often, probably about 15 years ago. But have never been able to find that board and get that one. But that's probably mine. But it's mostly because I've been fortunate enough to get the other ones that I had fallen in love with on MAME on real hardware.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of other ones that I discovered through MAME. It would definitely be shooters. I just don't really remember. A lot of the NMK stuff, like Thunder Dragon, games like that. Yeah, for sure. I played a lot of in MAME, but I don't know if I discovered them. JJ Squawkers for sure is one that sticks out.
I just know a lot of those obscure ones. Like I never saw them in.
Most of that stuff we didn't get over here.
Like pretty much all the IREM stuff. Like I would have played it in MAME.
Yeah, outside of like Raiden and Raiden 2, we barely had any shooters at my arcades.
Yeah, I think Last Blade was another one that I found that I hadn't ever played in arcades that I really liked.
That's a great game.
Yeah. I mean, there's probably tons, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you guys have ever just done the random MAME. Like, here's the 10 games. I'm just going to randomly pick one. Or I'm going to start typing a letter and just pick one and start playing it.
Still feel bad about the arcade one up. That your kid got it. Whoops.
Well, that wasn't me playing those.
Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't do it, but still feel bad about it.
So Daddy Mulk had an answer to his own question.
Okay.
And that is, for him, it was Anteater by Tego Electronics. Never encountered it in a while back in the day or even decades later, but it remains my go-to chill-out game on the Mister.
Okay. I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah, I don't think I've played that one either.
I don't think I have.
Yeah, and the mystery MAME always gets stuck on like trying to pull up like an 8-liner or one of those games that are like in there that
or like DMD code for a pinball machine.
Yeah, they're not fully emulated and like what is this trying to do? But that's always a fun exercise when you have some spare time. So that's our episode questions for this episode.
Yeah.
And if you'd like to have us answer yours, just go onto our Discord channel. You can get a link to it from our website, podouken.com, or through our Twitter bio link, or any other means. And go to our episode questions channel and post your questions there. And it may be included in a future episode. Chances are pretty good right now because I think we are building back up the base from the hiatus of questions to answer. So
get your questions in.
Get them in now.
And I will say, I mean, MAME, it's got a lot of stuff obviously in there now, but they still have monthly releases and there's still a lot of new stuff that shows up in them. So, if you're interested in finding some of these new games that you may have not been exposed to, towards the end of the month, go on mameworld.info has usually a great write-up with all the changes. You can see the new games and play some of the new systems, because that's how I remember discovering it, because it was like CPS wasn't emulated, and then all of a sudden it was added to MAME. So it's like, okay, well, I'm going to go through all the games for that system, or CPS2 or whatever it was when it got added. Over the years, that's how I got exposed to so much through it, because it was like, well, now I've got these 15 new games to go through and try. And so I got to play, Nemo's Dream World and, Willow and all those, that I hadn't played before in the arcade.
Tinkle Pit, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and some of those systems like Namco System 11 was one of the more recent additions to it, even though it's kind of an older hardware. It's PlayStation based, but it was one of those where through security issues or other stuff like that, it just wasn't emulated great until fairly recently. So there's a lot of games, Mr. Drillers through that. There's a handful of games that are really fun for that system, and I have several of the boards, but if you didn't have access to the hardware, you wouldn't get a chance to play it. So there's probably still some out there that you could definitely discover through MAME, just from the standpoint of they haven't been in there for very long.
Yeah, if you got an answer to the questions that we get asked on the podcast too, feel free to hop on Discord and answer them yourself. We always like to hear those answers. I know we ended the last episode with kind of like favorite episodes of Podouken.
Oh, yeah.
We turned it around. We're like, what were your least favorite episodes of Podouken? And we got some good answers there. It's always interesting to hear which ones those are, so that was cool to see.
I don't think my feelings got hurt, so I appreciate everybody's answers.
Oh, no. Yeah, it's just some surprises. I was like, really?
I was shocked at someone like Initial D. That made me happy. That's fantastic.
I think when we talk about games that we really enjoy,
it comes across.
It's infectious.
Yeah.
In some cases, and so even if people aren't like, oh, it's not my favorite game, it's picking up on that sort of vibe that we're broadcasting there. But who knows? If anybody, I don't know how many people actually sat through the entire X-Men episode, had that much time.
It had a lot of downloads. I'm pretty sure people did. I don't think there's many people out there that hate that game. I could say, like,
if so, give me their addresses.
Well, I could say that some people are probably like, it's not my favorite, but I don't think anybody could legitimately not like that game. If you like arcade games, it's impossible.
All right, so that is going to wrap us up for episode 126. Fresh off the hiatus, one episode into our Listener's Choice series. 2 more to go in the Listener's Choice before we move on to another mini-series. And I would encourage everybody to, let me see. One of the things we're going to try to do is get more video content out there. So check our YouTube channel. We actually have one of those. It's been vastly unused for the last 5 years, but we're going to try to update more content on there and get some segments going. So give that a look. There's a link to that on our website as well. In the meantime, Jared, where can they find you?
So normal thing like before.
Parked out in front of Tunism, trying to up your AME.
A lot of Tunism.
Trying to get the gear set up today. I'm ready to record now here. And I look out there, and what do I see?
Yep.
I can't blame him because I already did my 2 rounds before that, so it's not.
I did 1 round, and then like I looked around, and there was still like
Yeah, so just
some
enough time for another one.
Recording stuff
Yeah.
going on. I'm like, okay, I'll do 1 more, and then that was when Adam was like, "We're pretty much ready to go." And I'm like, yeah, I got it.
So yeah, this was my favorite thing that Adam brought back. That's my Amy card. So this allows me to keep my record on Tunithm and Sound Voltex. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that was may seem like a little thing, but that was really awesome because it's really fun. The games are fun to play, but when you can build upon what you've done, you can see, okay.
Well, it unlocks
this
stuff.
is
It unlocks like boss fights and all kinds of cool little.
Well, and
weird
it saves
stuff.
where you're at. That's my favorite thing. Is like I don't have to plug in my speed every time.
Right.
I don't have to like navigate to where I was at, where I was playing the last time. It just automatically goes there. So
you can see where you're in song wise. You can see it like, okay, I got S rank here, but I got A rank here, B rank here. Let me go back and play this one and try to improve upon it. Yeah. So
awesome. definitely thank you for that.
No problem.
All right, Adam, where can I find you?
I've been slacking lately, mostly because I've been busy in life and trying not to die from hurricanes that are barreling at our houses to the last second. But I do stream Wednesday nights at 9 o'clock Eastern at twitch.tv/PassBlaster. I will be. I'm pretty sure I'm able to stream all of the games that we've picked for this series. So over the coming weeks, we'll go ahead and make sure that we stream all of these games in addition to some other stuff as well. So check me out there.
All right. And we are happy to be back. We'll continue rocking and rolling on our episodes. And our next one, we're going to talk about a Sega game with lots of grunting.
And balls.
See y'all next time.
See ya.
Right?